The game. Time now for Keep It Running, where we give you tips and answer your questions about vehicle maintenance. And today's Keep It Running segment is sponsored by General Motors. And of course, Johnny Dipstick joins us this morning with all the questions. But I have had a preview of the questions. You can go ahead and introduce me, Johnny, as Jennifer.
Okay.
But you know, you got to turn your microphone on. Oh my God.
Hey, I earned the name Dipstick. Leave me alone. All right. Hey, good morning, Mr. Dipstick. This is Jennifer. I have a 2000 Honda Accord EX 6-cylinder, 3-liter. My question is, can a loose headlamp reflector be repaired?
It depends on how much you still love him.
Okay, very good. Funny. Yeah, there's more. Jennifer continues. Jennifer, do you want to take the rest?
I just installed a brand new headlamp and now the reflector is loose. The grommets were out when I took them from the box. I put them back in, but now the reflective part of the headlamp is wiggly.
Two of my favorite technical terms for cars, grommet and wiggly.
Anyway, Mike, what do I do?
Loosen your shorts, Jennifer. No, just kidding. Honestly, that has to be replaced. You need to go get a new headlight assembly and send it back. It's broken. You cannot take them apart.
Yeah, no, they're all
glued together, and you can't take them apart. And it's going to break, so just stick it back.
Well, speaking of which,
that's the good old Taiwanese stuff.
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, I bought one of those for one of my daughter's cars, and I'll ask you to guess which one. And I bought it from the Taiwanese place. It was nice and cheap, about 1/4 the price of the manufacturer. And it works just great. It looks great. It's not yellow and cloudy and all of the other stuff.
You can actually see out of it, yes.
There is a tail light that now has moisture in it, and I assume that the glued seal where they put the two halves together has probably popped loose and letting a little water in there.
Just a little bit of moisture, and it'll eventually corrode, eventually make it so it won't reflect enough, and it's not a good thing. So you need to take it apart and then just fix it. Just put some extra glue around the outsides.
I'm not going to do that. You know what? It's going to stay that way.
You're going to sell the car.
I like the ones where it fills up halfway with water.
Yeah.
Then you hit the brake light, and you can see it sloshing around inside the light.
And it hits the bulb, and it pops the bulb because the bulb is hot and the water's cold. Yes, I know.
All right, Mr. Dipstick.
All right. Well, the next question we have is from Snowball Johnson, and no, I'm not kidding. It's Snowball. Snowball, do you want to read the...
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Never mind. Dear Mr. Dipstick, I have a 2000 Chrysler Grand Voyager. My oil light keeps chiming like it's freaking Christmas. Can you tell me why the oil light would keep chiming even after I've put in enough oil? The life you save may be the life of my know-it-all, in-house mechanic Ed. Ed's a lovely man, my Ed, but dumb as a stump about cars. I really love the show. Mike can ring my chimes. Wait, hold it. Snowball's thermometer is getting a little bit too close to the red line there. Okay, Mike, what can Snowball do to stop her chimes from getting rung?
I was under the impression that Snowball was a man.
Well,
either way, Mike's in trouble.
Sound that way, but I'm in trouble either way. We did go back. We were in San Francisco this week, so things do change. Honestly, if your oil light's on, it's always a bad thing. And just because it has oil in it does not mean the oil is being pumped. And so that's not a good thing. So you might want to either and I've been driving it more than 5 or 6, 7 miles and hasn't blown up, then there's a good chance that it really is a shorted wire or something like that.
Pressure sensor?
Sensor could be bad. You need to actually take it somewhere and they have a take the sensor out and actually hook a mechanical gauge up to it and find out what your real oil pressure is. And just double check that everything is okay.
What should oil pressure be, Mike? When it's idle, it's
probably
really slow.
7 to 10 pounds, something like that. When it's cold, it'll be more than that. But let's say it's warmed up, you might want to be 7 or 8, 9, 10 pounds, something like that. Mm-hmm. And then as you rev it up, it's going to go up higher, maybe to 15 or 20. But the whole point is, when you have no oil pressure, that means your bearings are not getting enough oil because your engine runs on a film of oil. And if it's not there, the bearings will be destroyed in a mile or 2 miles. They're done. And I've seen people just go, well, the oil light came on, and I just kept driving it. Well, you drove it about 2 miles, and it threw a rod through the side of the block. So if they've driven it at all, then it may be just sending unit or
That'd
something.
be what they call a blown engine.
Yes, it is. You've seen that
It's
in
done
the drag
blowed up.
the drag racing days.
Yes,
haven't
I
you?
certainly have.
They do that
They
the
don't.
time.
They don't blow up. They explode.
Yeah, they do. Well, they do. What was it? 8,000 horsepower.
8,000 horsepower. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
When you put a connecting rod through the side of the block,
Yeah.
not a good thing.
It goes into the pavement.
Yes, it does, and the car hops off the ground.
The funniest thing is I was telling you a story a couple of weeks ago when I was working at the dealer way back in the 70s. A guy comes in with a Honda Civic and it's running bad. It's a 4-cylinder. And it just run on 3 cylinders. So I couldn't figure it out. I pulled out one of the spark plugs on the cylinder that wasn't running. It was all mashed and mangled.
The spark plug.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my God. So I checked the compression. There really wasn't any. So I pulled the oil pan off and it had broken a rod and smashed the piston up in the top of the cylinder head. And the guy goes, I've been driving it that way since like Laredo. And I'm like, oh my God. So he goes, but I can't afford it. So I ended up putting an extra big rod bearing on it to keep I ground off the piston rod so it was just a small spot. And put an extra oversized bearing in it so it would just stay there and not lose oil pressure. Cleaned everything up, sent him on his way, and he sends me, and back then you didn't have emails, he sent us a postcard from Florida, where he was on the way from L.A. to Florida for a job, and he made it, and he was he drove it for a year or two.
Was the cylinder dead?
Yeah, it was no dead. It was run on 3 cylinders.
It was run on
a 3-legged dog. And in the old Civic, they didn't have a catalytic converter or anything like that, and you could actually do that then. And boy, that was the freakiest thing I've ever seen. And the car ran great,
except it had a miss.
Yeah, it was a serious miss, and it was slow, but it's still, Can you imagine that nowadays?
No,
there's no way.
Well, you couldn't get through by the inspection.
No, but it was crazy.
All right, what's next?
What's next?
We have Gene. Gene wrote in and said, "Dear Mr. Dipstick, I have a 2005 Chevrolet Malibu 4-cylinder, 2.2 liter." And this you got to follow this one. It's pretty intricate. Why?
Do we have to go through all of that? Can't you just ask, why does it miss?
I don't know. Okay, my car hesitates when I step on the gas. Now it's at the point where it won't even run. I was going to work yesterday morning, and when I got to a tight turn in the road, I had slowed down. Then when I pushed on the gas pedal to speed up, I had to push the pedal all the way to the floor, and it still wouldn't go. I let up on the accelerator, and it started going, but the engine kept missing. It was okay for a little bit, but then it died. It would start and then cut right back off again. Now, I got some gas on Tuesday on the way home at Kroger, but I always get my gas there, so I don't think it's a Don Armstrong aqua gas problem. So can you please help me out here and tell me what might be going on?
Well, actually, it could be an agua gas problem. It could be a fuel filter plugged or something like that. Obviously, it's not getting enough fuel, or you could have spark plug wire arcing or something. There's several things. Either it's got a misfire on acceleration. The big thing is there a check engine light on? That would tell him, if it's got a misfire, it'll set an engine code. If it's just running lean, and if it's lean enough, the computer will tell you that too. So doing the data stream, getting a scan tool, putting in the diagnostic connector, and checking those kind of things, you ought to be able to tell a lot. And rather than just start and replace parts and things like that, whatever you do, don't just go get a bunch of injector cleaner and pour it in the tank or anything else. That's just going to make everything worse. Go and get somebody to look at it rather than throwing money down an empty hole. So just go have it checked out. It's not a big deal, but it could be simple as a fuel filter or a bad spark plug wire or a spark plug or something like that. How about that?
Well, that was brilliant.
Can I just tell everybody what's going on in here?
What?
Well, Mr. Dipstick, while he is doing this, is also apparently videotaping. Are you videotaping this?
Yes, it's going to go viral.
Oh, Lord.
I had a viral once, but I had shots for it.
Did you have?
We cleared it right up.
I remember that. I remember that very well.
See, now I want to get to this next question because it's going on in my own vehicle. So Jim wrote in and said, "Dear Mr. Dipstick, I've got a question about my brakes. When the brake is applied over speeds of 60 miles an hour, I get a shaking in the steering wheel. I've replaced the tires. Even after changing the tires, I still get the shaking in the steering wheel. All the suspension components are tight. I also replaced the brakes and rotors about a year ago, and they still look good, but it still keeps a shaking. What do I need to do to get this thing fixed?"
Well, shaking in the steering wheel at speed, when you apply the brakes, it has to be the rotors. That's all it can be. Now, a brake rotor can be warped, which means it's not parallel. And so what happens is when you mash on the brakes, it's not flat, so it's all of a sudden wiggles back and forth, which transfers to your steering wheel and your rack. Okay, and the point is, you can warp a rotor. I remember exiting 290 one time.
To your rack?
I hit a water puddle. Yeah, to your power steering rack.
Oh.
And not your chest. I'm sorry.
Don has warped a lot of rotors.
He's got a warped mind.
Warped everything.
But the point
yeah.
is, when you hit the brakes and the brakes are hot, and you go through some cold water or something, it'll warp the rotors right there. I remember doing it, hitting these brakes, and I saw this water puddle. I was like, oh, heck. And
yeah, I'll bet that's what you said.
And the second time I hit my brakes after that, I had a warped rotor, and I'm just like, man.
If you're out in Houston on a 100-degree day, a thunderstorm, you go crashing through the puddle, and you're out of luck.
That's right. Especially when you use your brakes all the time. There are people out there that ride their brakes all the time, and the brakes actually get too hot, and they'll warp then. I mean, we've actually gone on launches before where we're really driving fast through some windy stuff, and the brakes get so hot that we'll give it back, and all of a sudden the next time, the next person that drives this going, it shakes when you hit the brakes now. And I was like, yeah, that's because Mike and Don were driving it.
Well, sometimes you can get the shake out of it by having the rotors turn.
Right, yeah.
Then other times the rotors don't have enough material left on them.
You can only machine X amount off of them.
You know, the amazing thing about rotors, they're not really all that expensive
to
replace.
I mean, some vehicles they're $25 a piece.
Right.
It's easier, and the problem is also once you've had it machined, I've had the rotors machined. Well, once you've done that, they're thinner, so it means they're going to be more prone to warp
because they get hotter.
Absolutely, and they can't dissipate the heat. That's why you'll see the performance cars have these huge rotors that are vented. And if you ever watch NASCAR, which is some people think it's boring, but if you look at they have the events at night. And they'll show a camera underneath the car, and you can see when they hit the brakes, they're literally glowing. How they glow red. That's really kind of cool.
Is it cool and neat?
It is.
It's very cool and neat.
Well, it's not all very hot.
Yes, they do.
So shaking is not always good, and if you're having that problem, like Mr.
Have the rotors checked out, but you can't do it by look. You have to use a micrometer and things like that.
Okay.
A dial indicator.
Okay. Are you good now?
Oh yeah, we got plenty. You want more?
No, we'll save that for next hour. Is that all right? Because we need to move on.
Yes.
Well, okay, fine.
We got a lot of stuff.
If you're tired of learning great information,
and if anybody has any questions, just email us info@inwheeltime.com, or you can give us a call. What's the hotline number again? The hotline to happiness is 713-439-1560.
And coming up, we have toy time. You ready for some NHRA drag racing?
You betcha.
It's pro stuff. This is not the little Mickey Mouse stuff.
You got your red pumps. You're going to race and drag. Yeah. Wait a minute. It's not the same.
Well, Royal Purple Raceway's Vice President and General Manager joins us to talk about next weekend's big event over in Baytown. Matter of fact, Johnny Dipstick and
That would be big event.
Big event. Johnny Dipstick and I are going to go on Friday. And it should be a good time to be had by all. And we're going to interview Seth in just a couple of seconds here, and you're going to get to find out all about it. Great family event. You want to take the kids. You've never heard 8,000 horsepower engines. You'll want to go and feel the power.
You betcha.
You're listening to In Wheel Time with Don and Mike on 1560 The Game and streaming to your digital device via InWheelTime.com.